The decision today was more toward our leaning of what we'll be requesting for funding in the future on diversions. There's been a tremendous amount of work done on diversions in the past, but nothing has ever gotten close to engineering and design. These structures have been thought about, they've been in planning documents, there's been a lot of concerns about them. The master plan included a suite of 5 diversions. With the dollars we have on the horizon, we wanted to look at which of those diversions makes most sense to move forward with the information we have. There are a lot of concerns over fisheries, over community dynamics as a result of these diversions, flooding as a result of these diversions, effects that could happen on the river channels. So we've launched a large suite of studies to evaluate just those things that the public wanted us to look at before investing and making a huge commitment into the engineering and design and the construction of these projects. We've come to a conclusion on many of those studies. What we saw today were the results of lots of those studies, and it's pretty clear to us that as we move forward, there are 2 diversions that stand out amongst all of the others, and those are the Mid-Barataria diversion and the Mid-Breton diversion. And so more than ever, we have the data to support moving those forward for funding into engineering and design, and that's what we discussed today.
Okay, so for both of those diversions, there have been concerns raised about fisheries. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right, so there's a couple pieces to fisheries. One is there enough habitat in the future when you start to input this amount of fresh water into these basins? Does that habitat shift? Does the fisheries location shift? For the master plan, we did what they call habitat suitability indices, which really looks at the salinity levels and looks at suitable habitat. Many folks didn't think that was sufficient enough on this type of scale to look across within a basin or across basins for what would happen to the fisheries. We were asked to do a much larger food web type of analysis. We've now done that. We do not see catastrophic changes in our fisheries, and in fact, as anticipated, either without action or with action, we see changes in our fisheries, but we see them on very similar trajectories into the future, which I think is good news not only for our fisheries, but our fishermen and our communities that rely on these wetlands.
Okay, and so what's the time frame for actual construction?
So a lot of this will get into the regulatory processes. We think that the work that we've done to date greatly gives us a huge leg up as we move into the environmental impact statements and we start working on operations regimes. The same tools that we've developed will be utilized for those processes. We would think that somewhere between 2 and 3 years on the engineering and design and permitting and regulatory of these projects before we would be able to let a construction permit. We're going to get up to speed as quickly as we can on these. So I would anticipate about 3 years from July of next year is when we'll be targeting for construction.
And cost? Any guesstimates yet?
Yeah, so the cost ranges are largely going to, the final is going to end up relying on a lot more geotech and a lot more exactly what we'll see in the concrete and steel portions of the diversion channels. If I had to guess, on the Mid-Barataria diversion side, you're looking somewhere between $700 million and $1 billion, maybe even up to 1.1. It depends on how many bells and whistles we end up putting on that. There's a lot of enhancements that could be made, which would result in more wetlands, and so we need to look at those various features. On the Breton side, there's a lot less obstacles, and you're looking in that $300 to $500 million range. We'll continue. We haven't gotten into value engineering. We haven't necessarily gotten into all the different construction methodologies. So there's still a lot of work to do before we get a much better handle on that number.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.